We got a full house.
I see that.
Got it? Good morning. I'm Mac Wade. I'm the executive for the Port of Oregon City. Just want to welcome everybody to being here today. Thank y'all for coming out for the hurricane meeting today. Restrooms are right out on the outside, or we have restrooms around this side. Your exit signs and everything, you'll see those through the building. But just wanted to welcome everybody on behalf of the Port of Oregon City. I'm going to turn it over to Cindy.
Good morning. I'm Cindy Cotrera. I'm the Economic Development Manager for the Port of Oregon City. I want to welcome everybody to our 14th Annual Hurricane Preparedness Meeting. All of our state, local, federal participating agencies, our delegation representatives, and all of our stakeholders who are here this morning. As I mentioned, this is our 14th annual meeting. Back in 2013, Tim Osborne reached out and said, could we host a hurricane preparedness meeting in Morgan City? We did it for the first couple years at the municipal auditorium, and what I wanted to tell you today is that 10 years ago today, on May 12, 2016, was when we hosted the first hurricane preparedness meeting in our EOC. We activated it in early 2016 when there was riverine flooding going on, and so since then we have assisted in a facility for emergency preparedness, and we have the St. Mary Levee District and U.S. Coast Guard present in our building, and we have had, since we opened this facility, over 1,800 trainings and meetings for all of our local, state, federal agencies, and so I wanted to brag about that. And so, so we have several people making presentations, and then towards the end of the program, we have some other people who are here, some people from the Corps of Engineers and from the Sheriff's Department and so on, our city and parish officials. We'll call on you at the end if there's any other message that you'd like to share with the group, or if anybody in the group has questions for these people, we'll be able to do that. So thank you, everyone, and I'll turn it over to Jimmy now. Or, I'm sorry, Ross. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Cindy. Appreciate that. Appreciate y'all letting us give this meeting now present. I'm going to be retiring as the OEP director this year, coming up the end of next month, the end of this month. And Ross Mears is going to be taking my place. Ross has had a lot of experience with the Wildlife and Fisheries Sheriff's Office, law enforcement, rescues, and all of that nature. So he's very familiar with the catastrophes that we've gone through with hurricanes, floodings. He's been to New Orleans for Katrina, right, and all of that. So we're going to let him take off on the briefing for the OEP this morning. Oh, wait, Doug's next? Doug. Doug is next. He's with the Lake Charles Weather Service Office. He's been here quite a while through several hurricanes in our region, and he's going to be giving his own presentation from the perspective of the Weather Service. And at the end of his discussion, if you have any questions, call on him and feel free to ask.
Thank you, Jimmy. All right. Well, good morning. This is always one of my favorite hurricane meetings. You know, we do these along the Gulf Coast all the way to the Sabine River and then over into southeast Texas as well. And this is always a really well-attended and good group here where you can network with a lot of different people. So I really appreciate you all having us here and having this hurricane preparedness meeting. It's a very important thing that we do, and it's always good to kind of go over some of the protocol and some of the things that we do to serve you and communicate with you when we do have tropical cyclone development out in the Caribbean or the Gulf. The one thing that I wanted to kind of show you all this year that's a little bit new, this came out last year. I've been here for about 3.5 years, and I've been telling you that artificial intelligence is coming to hurricane forecasting. And it finally arrived last year. This is what we call the Google DeepMind. So it's ran by Google. It's a DeepMind. It's an artificial intelligence hurricane model that we gained access to last year. It performed very well in year one. As a matter of fact, it was the top performing hurricane model out there. And so that's pretty impressive that it's a newly created model, it's an artificial intelligence model, and it beat every other model that we used last year. So this is what's really cool about the Google DeepMind and the software that we utilize this with is you can go back and you can back test it. So even though the model was new last year, we can go into different storms that we had in the past and back test how it did. So we're basically throwing in the artificial intelligence data. It has no idea what Francine did when it developed out in the Bay of Campeche. Okay, it has no idea. Okay, we're just throwing in the model and the existing conditions that were down there and what was up there along the path, and we back tested the model. Now, if you remember, 3 days out, the first advisory that came out, the National Hurricane Center, had the track, the middle of the track and the cone going up the Sabine River. My pointer won't look there, but right there on the Texas and Louisiana coastline is where we had the path of this hurricane going. And the Google DeepMind, when we back tested, it has it going into St. Mary and Terrebonne Parish. So you can see that 3 days out, the model actually out-forecasted the Hurricane Center's forecast in this situation. When we take a look at another hurricane of interest, which was Beryl of that same year, so I definitely want to show you, kind of give you an idea about how that one performed. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go back and back test Hurricane Beryl. The model goes out about 15 days. So it's a 15-day forecast. And so Beryl actually formed out in the Atlantic in late June, about June 28th. This is when that storm formed. And it eventually made landfall, I believe it was early July, about July 8th, I believe. So it's about a 10-day, that's about a 10-day forecast for when that made landfall. So it actually made landfall, it was about, when I put the track on in here, so this is the observed track. The gray line is the observed track. So that was about July 8th, so it's about a 10-day forecast. And if you remember with Beryl, the initial forecasts were for that to come into make landfall south of Brownsville, Texas. And so when I take off the ensemble beam track and put the observed track on there, that gray line, you can see how accurate that is. So the gray line is the observed track, and the bright track that you see there is the ensemble mean. So there's roughly, I think, about 50 different model members, ensemble members, within the Google DeepMind artificial intelligence model. And so the bright line is the mean. You can see 10 days out, that's pretty accurate, right? So that's encouraging, but we have to be careful. You know, there's still going to be some error with the Google DeepMind. We can't put 100% faith and confidence in this thing. First of all, it's only had 1 year of use, so it's brand new. And we still have a lot more to learn about that model. So I just wanted to show you a couple of examples that hey, I think there's a chance that our hurricane forecasting with the use of artificial intelligence is really going to improve for us. And talking with the Hurricane Center, some initial talks that we've had with them, we had a preseason meeting about a month ago, and they said they're going to weight more of their forecast with the Google DeepMind initiatives. They're going to put more weight into that forecast with their official forecast because they recognize the fact that it was the highest performing model out there last year. So we've been talking about the AI models for a few years, and I just wanted to show you this here, and we are going to be using it. And if we get something out of the call, then we're going to be doing conference calls with you. I'm probably going to show you what the Google DeepMind will be. Obviously, we're going to show you the official forecast, but the Google DeepMind is something that we'll also show you as well. Yeah.
Doug, on that, how do you release that to the press if they go ask on that?
Well, I mean, that is a public model, right? So it is something that is made available to the public. So it's just like any other model. We just have to be careful that, again, not to have too much confidence in it. I showed you a couple examples where it really worked well. It worked well last year with some of the storms, but it's still not going to be perfect. So I just want to make that very clear that we have not found a perfect solution to hurricane forecasting, but it is encouraging that it may improve over the next few years with the use of artificial intelligence. All right, so that Hurricane Beryl, it formed in June of 2024, so that was a pretty early storm to form out in the Atlantic. Usually when we start to get Atlantic storms, it kind of holds off until late July, August, September, and then by about October, and especially Thanksgiving, the ocean temperatures become a little bit too cool for storms. Now, last year we had a pretty quiet year in the Gulf of Mexico. We thought it was going to be a fairly around a normal to maybe slightly below average season last year. We ended up with 13 named storms, and on average we get about 14 named storms. But one thing that you noticed last year, most of those storms got steered back out into the Atlantic as soon as they were approaching the Caribbean and areas there along the East Coast. So that ended up being a good thing. Overall, a very positive season for us. We did have 4 major hurricanes, though. That's quite a few major hurricanes for only having 13 named storms. And then 5 hurricanes, on average we get 7. So slightly below average season for us, for specific to the Gulf of Mexico. Definitely a quiet season for us last year. Our National Weather Service forecast for 2026, I don't think that's going to come out until about May 22nd, so we don't have that for you. But last year, our Weather Service forecast, we were calling for 13 to 19 storms, named storms, 6 to 10 hurricanes, and 3 to 5 major hurricanes. We kind of hit the bottom part of those ranges last year, except for the hurricanes we missed altogether. We were going 6 to 10, and we only ended up with 5. And then over here to the right, you can see that's the seasonal averages on that. We show you these forecasts every single year, and so I like to reflect back on the previous year to see how those forecasts verify. AccuWeather, they also do a forecast, and it was very similar to the Weather Service's forecast. But again, they kind of miss on the hurricanes with only 5. Colorado State is probably the most popular one. They've been doing that ever since, ever since I was a little kid. And they're a little high, but they're a little hot with their forecast as well. But they're going 17.9 and 4. We ended up with 13.5 and 4. For this year, for 2026, they've really lowered their numbers. And we believe they lowered their numbers because of the strong El Nino INSO cycle that we're going to be in 2026. A lot of the INSO, and I'll show you the modeling here on what that's looking like here in just a second. AccuWeather up there at State College, Pennsylvania, they're only going 11 to 16 named storms this year, 4 to 7 hurricanes, and 2 to 4 major hurricanes, so they're going slightly below average seasonal norms. And then the Weather Channel is kind of following that trend as well, where they're going 12, 6, and 2 major hurricanes. Now, a couple of the things that we look at when trying to predict if we're going to have an above average season, an active season, or maybe a below average season, are the sea surface temperatures. And I can tell you that the yellows and the oranges there indicating our sea surface temperatures are above average. That would tend to lend to a little bit more activity in terms of tropical cyclones heading into the season. However, a strong El Nino is favored through hurricane season. So we're coming out of neutral conditions. All of the climate models are showing us to go into a very strong El Nino, and that would tend to favor less tropical activity as we go into our hurricane season. About a 90% chance of going into El Nino, not only an El Nino, but a strong El Nino, where those ocean temperatures in the South Pacific are unusually warm. And that will tend to kind of change the overall steering patterns to give us less hurricane activity. Now, we have to be careful with that information, right? Because we've had strong hurricanes, we've had major hurricanes during El Nino seasons. It's just kind of an indicator or a signal that kind of helps us predict what type of season we're going to have. It only takes one really bad hurricane to make it really bad for us. And so during a typical El Nino pattern, fewer hurricanes in the Atlantic, in the Caribbean, in the Gulf, and that would typically signify more hurricanes on the Pacific side. These are the names that we're using, so we're going back to 2020 names. Although we will not be using Laura, that one got retired, and Ada and Iota got retired that year as well. We don't use the Greek alphabet anymore, but those are the names that we'll be using for 2026, starting with Arthur, and then if we need to go all the way to the Wilfred, that's what we'll be using. Tropical cyclone tracks, I always find this interesting. All the way back to 1861, you can see just about anywhere in the Caribbean, the Gulf, and the Atlantic, you can get a hurricane, tropical cyclone. On the Pacific side, it's a little bit more of a narrow geographic range that would get those. So it's a little more difficult to forecast on the Atlantic side. When it comes to impacts, storm surge still kills more people than any other hurricane impact. There's a lot of different impacts. You get tornadoes, you get freshwater flooding from rivers. And then you can get impacts just from the wind as well. But the storm surge still impacts more lives and property than any other hurricane-related impacts. So we just have to remember that, especially being so close to the Gulf. I want Jonathan. So we got Jonathan Brazil. He's our hydrologist. Been around a long, long time. I want him to kind of explain what these surge maps mean. I know that there's a little bit of controversy and disagreement with some of these surge maps, especially here in South Central and Southeast Louisiana. And so Jonathan kind of explain what these surge maps actually mean.
All right, so when we're looking at these maps, we are taking thousands of storms, running it through the model, going from varying the direction, the speed, and whatever the maximum of the maximum that for each category is what we plot on this map. It's just the worst case scenario for any given category of hurricane. So it is not going to look like this in a real hurricane. It's going to be a smaller footprint, except for in the case of Hurricane Ike, like somebody mentioned. Hurricane Ike had a big flood footprint because it was such a large storm. But just take this. This is just the plan. So make your plans off of this map. And I will say that we were here last year at the same time, and we got the data on the levees from the levee board. Hurricane Center promised me they're getting that data into the model now. So So hopefully the levee system will be more accurate coming up here in the next year or two. Any questions on the surge maps?
So what he's saying is this is a Category 1 surge map, but each one of those locations showing a surge, the storm has to come in just perfect, and it has to have a big eye, and it has to be moving slow in order to maximize and make that realistic, right? That's what that means.
In the storm, the direction it comes in is a big factor.
Yes, sir.
Direction and speed.
So this is a worst-case scenario for each location for a Category 1. There's a Category 2, and it goes all the way up to Category 5. So for surge, to make it all the way to I-10 over here by Lacassine, it's got to come up, or over here by Orange, Texas, it's got to come up right here on the left side of the Sabine River, the mouth of the Sabine River. It's got to be a Category 5, it's got to have a big eye, it's got to be moving slow, and it's got to take the exact track moving right up the left side of the Sabine River for it to cross I-10 right there. Okay, so that's what these maps mean. Yes, sir.
So when you say moving slow, give us an indication of what speed you're talking about.
What do you think, Jonathan? What was Ike moving?
About 7 or 8 miles an hour. 7 or 8 miles an hour, but remember, Ike was a huge storm. It's like in the swimming pool, you take your big hand, like, and the smaller you bring it in, the waves are going to be smaller. But Ike had a big, like, reach, and so it just had a big surge with it.
Just another rate.
Yeah.
So when the slow-moving storms, they're going to produce more surge because there's just giving the ocean more time to accumulate and push that water inland. We do have some changes to the cone. There is an elliptical experimental cone that's going to be used this year. I don't think we're going to go quite to the elliptical cone just yet. We're going to give it a year to see how that goes for the Hurricane Center. It's going to have a 90% accuracy rate with that elliptical cone. It's a little wider. I think for now we're going to stick with the traditional one, and maybe next year, if it's not going to be experimental and it's going to go operational, we'll go to the elliptical cone. They've given us the option to use either or, but I think this year we're going to stick with the traditional cone with 67% accuracy on the storm center going through that cone. One of the things that's going to be shown this year are the inland watches and warnings are going to be highlighted with the operational cone. We had that last year with an experimental cone, but now that's going to be operational this year. All right. Remember the cone of uncertainty, the traditional one, 33% of the time, the storm center can track outside of that cone of uncertainty. So Hurricane Beryl was a pretty good example of that, where it kept turning to the right and it moved outside of the cone throughout the lifespan of that. Remember, the cone gets a little bit more narrow every 5 years. That purple cone, that was the cone we used in 2005. 2020, that's the red cone, so it continues to get more narrow every single year, and that's because the forecasts get better, and the way we do the forecast, the ensemble systems, has provided a little bit more accuracy to the track and the intensity, and then also, as we throw in the artificial intelligence data, we think that's going to allow the cone to get a little bit more narrow as we go in with time. These are the kind of graphics I'm going to show you every single decision support packet and every single conference call. So the probability of hurricane force winds or the probability of tropical storm force winds. We have both of those types of maps. That's the shady color, the probability. And then the black iso lines that goes across those probabilities, that's the timing of arrival. And I'll always show both of these. The most likely timing of arrival, which is the right side, but the earliest reasonable timing of arrival, which is on the left side, just to give our decision makers an idea that, hey, if the storm does speed up, which is possible, then the timing of arrival of those tropical storm force winds could happen on the left side. That way, they can prepare for the earliest reasonable timing of arrival. This year, it's going to be very similar to previous years. And really, last year, I don't even know if we had any conference calls or decision support packets issued for you, because we didn't have any storms. But if you remember from 2024, what we're going to do is, if an advisory comes out at 10 o'clock in the morning, which they do every 6 hours, at 10:15, so 15 minutes after that advisory comes out, I'm going to have a conference call with our emergency management community, the Coast Guard, and our elected officials. Our emergency management community, especially over on the Texas side, they've made it very clear. We can't have media in there. We can't have school districts and other partners. This has got to be EMs, Coast Guard, and elected officials only, because there are so many decisions and discussion topics that's got to be talked about in that conference call. So that one will take place first when we communicate to you what these storms are going to do. And then 30 minutes after that initial conference call with the EMs, Coast Guard, and our elected officials, that's when the rest of the partner groups will have their conference call. So 45 minutes after, we'll have that second call for school districts and other partner groups like law, fire, and things like that. And then after that, I'll typically have to run downtown Lake Charles, and do one for the mayors. And there are some other calls and briefings that we've got to do after that. So our workload really goes up, just both operationally, but from a communication standpoint, whenever we get a storm out into the Gulf, the workload really goes up. Now remember, every 6 hours, that cycle we'll do that again. So if we get something that's threatening us at 4 o'clock p.m., we'll do it again. So 4:15, our EMs will get the call. 4:45, the rest of the partner groups will get their call. Okay. If it's pretty serious, then we'll do one at 10 o'clock at night. Okay, and then one at 4 o'clock in the morning. Since I've been here, I haven't had to do one at 4 a.m. yet, but it's probably going to happen at some point. If it gets big enough and the updates need to get communicated out, we will do a 4:15 call and a 4:45 call. All right. One last thing, let's talk about Slack. So our government partners, our elected officials, our decision makers, Slack is a tremendous tool in terms of communicating with the National Weather Service, and the Weather Service communicating to our different communities across Louisiana and Texas. We started Slack about 2 years ago, and the back and forth communication and the collaboration on that has been phenomenal. So just keep in mind, if you want to communicate, if you have one way to communicate with the Weather Service, that is our registration link there, and we can't get private companies on that yet, right? I'm trying to get to where industry can get on there, but we can't do it quite yet. But our government partners, our school districts, tax-paid salaries, we can get you on our Slack, and it's a great thing to share information back and forth to. I wanted to talk about, I guess I missed that slide there, but I did want to talk about rapid intensification. That's a big deal because the Hurricane Center, they're noticing that rapid intensification, the frequency of it is occurring more often, like Hurricane Otis. In 2023 of October, when it hit Acapulco, it went from a tropical storm to a Cat 5 storm in 24 hours, and Acapulco wasn't ready for that. And it was very devastating because they just, they were thinking it was going to be a Cat 1 storm. That can happen here in Louisiana. We had the Hurricane Awareness Tour in Lake Charles last week, and I was able to talk to the Hurricane Center personnel about rapid intensification. And I asked Robbie Bird, their WCM, I said, has there been any progress with understanding the rapid intensification? He said, actually there is. Last year, 2 years ago, we didn't really know much about it, right? But they're making some progress in understanding it a little bit more and showing some skill in actually forecasting when it's going to occur. So that's also promising as well. I don't know if it's AI related or why they're gaining skill on that, but they're starting to understand it a little bit better. So that's a good thing. That's all I have for you. I want to keep it short. Any questions for the National Weather Service? Okay, thank y'all.
Hey, thank you, Doug. Appreciate that. Doug's always available for us to ask questions or anything that you have in your vicinity or whatever. So if you can call the EOC for St. Mary, we can get in touch with Doug right away and he can give us updates on anything. He's also very involved with the forest fires that we had in the state. Next up, we're going to have our good buddy, Mr. Tim Osborne from NOAA, and he's going to give us his presentation.
Oh, right there. Thanks. Appreciate it. I wanted to first thank everyone, especially Cindy, Tori, Mac. The Port of Morgan City has been a real leader in terms of this hurricane preparedness. I'd like to really make a really important point about all of you being involved in here. You're setting a real national standard. Everything we've done across our hurricane seasons for years and years and years, Hurricane Milton, Tampa Bay, we took exactly the engagement, the communications, the planning here, and we took it to Tampa Bay. And we reopened the port in record time, working in conjunction with the Coast Guard, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the port authorities. So the lessons we're learning and the lessons we hear are developing are things that we're taking all across the country. And that's a very, very important thing, because you need to understand is the fact that this is not just South Louisiana trying to make the best they can out of South Louisiana. You're actually a national standard bearer for the things that you're doing, and that's really important. In terms of awareness, some of the points that I would like to make, I don't know, hit the next slide. I think it is. Oh, all right. Let's see if it works. Oh, there it is. Let's go back. One of the most important things that I really would like to impress upon you is staying connected. And very important is the fact that your awareness of who you are to work with, who's available for your resources, is absolutely the number one critical thing. Doug Kramer, the National Weather Service Lake Charles office. Dave Welch and partner are with the Florida Mississippi River Forecast Center in the back. He's going to be meeting with a number of you about flood forecasting, water levels around the Atchafalaya. National Weather Service New Orleans office based in Slidell. A lot of you connect over to Texas. You've got a weather forecast office there in Houston, Galveston. And if you really go to the east, you've got Mobile, and then I'm going to be over next Monday with Tallahassee Weather Forecast Office in North Florida, talking to the constituency over there, the forest, the pilots, the Coast Guard, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. This is a really, really very important standardized type of methodology. It's knowing and getting involved with the people that you can work with and work with very, very closely no matter where you are. And that's one of the most important things, is not only knowing where your WFO is, the website, the phone, the name of the forecasters, people like that. As you can see, Doug's approachable, Jonathan's approachable, Dave Welch, you're all fine. We're a little geeky, but we're very friendly, and we don't run away from not answering the phone, and that's really one of the most important things. Who are your port and waterway contacts? Who are the Coast Guard head of prevention, captain of the port? Where are they? Who do I talk to about the kind of issues that I have concerns about? And again, one of the most important things I'd like to impress upon you, having done 25 to 30 or more hurricanes and such as that, where you are does not matter, but how connected you are does. When we had Hurricane Milton, we had a Cat 4, Cat 5 threatening the Tampa Bay area. Captain of the port says, we're not staying here, we're going. And so we effected a closure, a response, a survey, and a reopening of Port Tampa Bay 110 miles away in Orlando at the Incident Management Team Center there. Why? The most important resource is you. So protecting yourself, but still staying connected is the most important thing. As you heard, flooding, storm surge, #1 killer. But all of those things really are how much exposure you're going to put your people into, yourself, and remain with storms. And in a lot of ways, it doesn't help. If you're cut off, if you have no communications, if you've been hurt, if you have hospitals, local medical centers that were closed and evacuated, if your EMS and fire are down and they're not coming out for you, these are the kind of things that are so important, not only in safeguarding you, but safeguarding your community, because you're removing yourself from that. I'd like to repeat, like I said last year with Hurricane Milton, local coastal counties along the Gulf Coast, as Milton was coming on, announced they weren't getting people to leave. Evacuation was not happening, and there's a lot of reasons why, the population, the whole bit. But some of the counties all of a sudden announced, like, as of tomorrow morning, we're shutting everything off. All electricity, all sewer, all water, our EMS and our sheriffs, our deputies, our fire, we're leaving. You will have nothing on at your house. There will not even be traffic lights on. So if you'd like to stay, that's fine by you. But if you want to pick a time when we are shut down and leaving, and that is what moved people. We had millions of people on the move coming off the Gulf Coast, out of the Tampa Bay, Sarasota, Manatee area that were leaving and came to Orlando, came to other places. They went down to West Palm, they went up to Tallahassee, they went over to Atlanta. So one of the most important things is to realize that safeguarding public utilities is becoming more and more pressing, to the point where they're going to actually just shut things down and protect their infrastructure and have that hopefully being kept safe, so that when they come back in after a storm and after a quick assessment, they can get this back on. One of the more important things also is taking inventory and taking stock of what you have today. We have free, if the Hurricane Awareness Tour, if you were in Lake Charles, right next to the P3, was one of our remote sensing planes from the National Geodetic Survey. We have free imagery available, and I'm hoping that Cindy and Tori and others will share these websites and PowerPoint slides from all of us. But we have free imagery, 6-inch resolution right now that you can download of your areas quickly, effectively. Download, save them. Get imagery of your facilities, because the one thing that occurs after a hurricane, when you go and looking at filing for reconstruction and funds to actually rebuild your area, the question is just like, well, is this damage from before or after the storm? FEMA makes you do that. The state makes you do that. So taking stock of your facilities, having that imagery before the storm season is really one of the most important things. The other thing we'd like to do is we'd like to ask you to also take stock as you get ready for storms, to think about, what do I have at this facility that I can safeguard, that I can move, or what will I have and just before the storms that will stay at the dock that I need to be aware of and look for as soon as that storm is clear. With Hurricane Delta, we were missing multiple rock barges that were there at the construction site for Venture Global. We couldn't find them, and finally we did with one of our multi-beam imagery boats. In the middle of the ship channel, just out how you passed, was a fully loaded rock barge sitting right in the middle of the ship channel. And so that caused a 3-month delay to get it out, but then they had to dredge a detour channel and start ship traffic in that way. So you're taking stock, you're using imagery, you're getting imagery, and having it ready prior to a storm is so important. Doug brought up something very important. We're going to El Nino. We will not have to worry about a darn thing. Why? Because there's not going to be any storms. I'll do points. One, last year, as Doug mentioned, no big deal, no storms. But if you look statistically, it was still an active season. It was just way off to the east. El Nino does not mean that we can't be prepared. We're not going to be impacted by a statistic, an El Nino season or a La Nina season. We're going to be impacted by the one storm that we need to worry about can occur in La Nina or El Nino. Here's Hurricane Michael, 2018. I was there, just outside the impact zone, when it went right into Bay County and Mexico Beach. That thing was a 5, and it wasn't slowing down when it hit. It was devastating. Tyndall Air Force Base, from the recon assessments, that area was totally destroyed. And Mexico Beach, decimated. A lot of Bay County, gone. And those are the kind of things in a strong El Nino season. 2023, Hurricane Idalia hits the Florida coast. 23 million population during a strong El Nino. So what we have to really think about is the fact that we're not looking at just having an El Nino and letting our guard down, because it's the one storm, no matter what those conditions, that can do that. And that's really one of the most important things. The other thing too, and I'd like to point out, Milton, remember that saying, it's the backyard storm? Milton was that, starting on the western side of the Gulf and coming all the way across and never letting go until just before landfall. And that's one of the most important things. If you look at the PowerPoint slide as you come across, the other thing too is not letting up throughout the entire hurricane season. Milton wasn't until October. And all these storms over here that I put together are all late October, September, November storms that we need to really be vigilant about. The fact that we have got to get to the end of November, and even then, who remembers Hurricane Katrina season? When was the last tropical event that we had there? January. And that's not been unusual. We've had storms that have gone into December and January. Hurricanes can't read calendars. That's the basic thing. They can't read calendars, but that's why we need to be vigilant all the way through. So our preparedness starting now is important, and it needs to carry us all the way to the end of the year, and that's really a key thing. That's why you tie into the weather forecast offices all the time. If you've seen their weekly weather briefings, if you've seen their severe storm decision support packages, this all folds into the tropical season as well. The other thing too, and we talked about storm surge that Doug mentioned, it's one of the #1 killers out there. It's coastal inundation. We produce with every storm a coastal inundation website that basically shows all the water level stations across the entire Gulf and what they're doing with any one storm. He mentioned Hurricane Ike, slow-moving Cat 2 that made a beeline all the way to Galveston, Texas, and yet it flooded every coastal parish, even the North Shore of Louisiana, because it was such a huge storm. So storms making landfall over here, like an Ike, doesn't mean that we're out of the woods if we're sitting over there on the North Shore in Slidell. So having this coastal inundation dashboard in one site that you can look and see that movement of water wherever you are is really key, because again, the cone is just the storm itself. The influence of the water that it's having can go way, way past. If you actually go back to Katrina making landfall in the Louisiana, Mississippi border, they had enormous storm surge in Mobile Bay. In fact, Port Mobile in downtown Mobile went underwater. So again, these kind of resources, hopefully you'll keep as PowerPoint slides, and these links are very important to really stress. The other thing too that I'd like to point out is that same plane that you saw in Lake Charles is actually flying with every one of these storms imagery that now is getting so good, so high of resolution in terms of 6-inch or better imagery, that for the United States Coast Guard, it was actually a Coast Guard mystery expert in Hurricane Milton that actually developed a program, and I'll send to Cindy for everyone to get. But the imagery is so good today that you can actually find and look at individual aids to navigation, buoys, day marks, sea buoys, and you can actually, this is being generated for your reference. You can go to that buoy, you can find the buoy, you can look at the position of that buoy, and then you can say whether or not it's off the station. The Coast Guard Sector St. Pete did an entire assessment of aids to navigation without ever having a crew on a boat go out there and actually check it themselves. So they did 5 times the work that a crew out there on the water was able to achieve. And then we were able to open so much more quickly. And that's really one of the issues with this imagery, is being able to use it and use it effectively for multiple reasons. So again, free download for state and local emergency managers. You can do it in bulk. you can start using in terms of that. You can also, if you look at this as a tank terminal in the Tampa-St. Pete area, you can actually start looking at it for spills. Do we see a spill? Do we actually then need to go ahead and flag it and go out and actually look at it? And that was the thing in terms of multiple uses. One imagery at 6-inch resolution or better, and multiple people were looking at it for ACE navigation, so the condition of the dock to bring the ship to, for whether or not we were actually seeing spills in the storage tanks right here. The important thing to recognize is the fact that as the Port of Morgan City, as coastal Louisiana, we are the energy lifeline for the United States. I mean, 95% of every gallon of gas the state of Florida is consuming today has to be brought in by vessel, either through the GIWW to North Florida or by ship out of here over to the Port of Tampa, Port of Fort Lauderdale, Miami, West Palm, Jacksonville, Canal. And so that's the important thing in terms of that initial thing. It was preparedness, response, recovery, reopening. You're doing it to basically reestablish that pipeline. And then if you look offshore, 20% of essentially every gallon that we're consuming in America today is being provided from the Gulf. And you're supporting that as well. So this is a critical type of dynamic to recognize, and it's a critical reason why meetings like this, and it's been 14 years, is really...
We were young then.
We were children. Cindy was a high school intern at the time. I said, yeah, let's do it. Go team. But I digress. But I'd like to point out the fact that these are all resources that are very, very important. And on top of that, one of the most important things also is that we just yesterday had our coordination meeting with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers New Orleans District. And what we are doing is coordinating with them in terms of what assets do we have for surveying, where can we go, and they need to send us somewhere, and the type of imagery we provide. And that's really one of the most important things that's key here, is that we work together. We work with the Corps of Engineers. The Corps of Engineers works with the Coast Guard. We get reports from ports. Do we have problems? Are we in need of something? Where do we go? And as the New Orleans District was saying, is the fact that we'll give you the shape files, we'll give you the project files that we need to have surveyed. You survey, you provide it to us. The ability, now he was talking about AI, and we had an old term, we call it machine learning. But the ability for this boat, the Thunder, 7 people were on board surveying from the sea buoy into the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. Not one piece of that data was ever handled on the ship. It was beamed in real time off the ship by Starlink. We had shore-based operators. They were processing. They started surveying from the sea buoy into the Sunshine Skyway Bridge at 8 o'clock on that night. 5 in the morning, we were able to get a full-blown briefing with full imagery of the entire, 70% of the channel, reporting from this asset saying whether or not we had an open channel, or the depths of that channel, was it changed before or after the hurricane, and were there any objects at all found. That was done with the machine learning, with the AI, because we pump in terabytes of data, and it all has to be processed and all has to be produced. We can't do it as individuals, but our software, really expensive stuff, is able to do that for us in real time as this is being beamed off. The kind of work that we're doing is so important because the sea state offshore is limiting to people like the Corps of Engineers, New Orleans District, because they have smaller ships, and we have smaller ships, just like this one over here. So we do, and we are starting a survey with one of our contractors offshore Morgan City this year that will be in place if we need them to be detailed to do a hurricane response, starting from the offshore to the inshore, just like we did with Hurricane Laura, just like we did with Hurricane Delta, just like we did with Hurricane Ida. In fact, actually, this was the one that did Ida. It did the HNC, did Port Fourchon, and it was able to report essentially in real time using its Starlink system. So having that ability, and I'd like to take one more aside, because yesterday, in terms of technology, and we're not competing. He's got deep AI and everything like that. But I would like to point out, yesterday it was announced that we awarded a $22 million contract to the Lafayette company, Maritime, to essentially start moving us into fully autonomous survey operations. Chance is now working off of Pensacola right now with 2 of their autonomous systems that are out of Lafayette. And in 30 days, and the 30-day period that they started just recently to today, one of their autonomous units has already covered over 3,000 line miles of survey without stopping. We can't do that with someone with a manned boat. They can. And then, in fact, that's one of the most important things to think about is the next generation of autonomous systems using AI, using Starlink systems. And we're here in Louisiana, so much of that is occurring. We're seeing more autonomous companies coming into the area. We're seeing more of that technology, and what we're learning is the fact that not only can we do it, we can do it so well that it takes away some of the most important factors and limiting factors of working on the water. And that's us. That's us. And that's one of the most important things. So congratulations, not only in doing these meetings, but in the technology and the people that are in the meetings, and what we were just awarded yesterday in terms of the work. The last thing I'd like to impart here is know your charts and area. That's one of the most important things. If you have facilities that aren't on a chart, if you have facilities that you've just added to or enlarged or have new features, talk to me. We'd love to basically make this opportunity of having us meet with you face to face, say we want to improve. Do we have berths? Do we have mooring areas? Do we have new slips that we can go ahead and add to the charts and make our charts even better? Because when we're responding and we're doing a recovery and we're doing a survey job in an area, and all of a sudden we come to an area like, this is a slip, it's not on the chart. Should we survey it or not? This is the opportunity of us to capture all that, have it depicted, have it really well documented to make sure that we're capturing everything that's going on. And as Port Authorities, as you expand and enlarge, this is a great time to do it while we are preparing for the storm season to actually update the charts as well. That's my shameless plug for the survey. The other thing I'd like to do is I'd like to just, again, offer great respects to the National Weather Service, weather forecasting offices, wherever they are. In fact, I've worked with every WFO in the Gulf Coast for a hurricane, tropical storm, more than once, and all the way up into the East Coast with New York, New Jersey, Hurricane Sandy, Hurricane Irene up there. And I think that's one of the most important things. But it also starts with the Port of Morgan City. It starts with all the PALs, the Ports of Louisiana, which is an important network. It starts with GEICA. And Thursday, we were at Port of New Orleans with the Gulf Intercoastal Canal Association with their joint hurricane team. So all I can tell you really is keep getting plugged in to the local network and the resources that are here right now that you can then trade cards, get an opportunity, maybe come on over and meet the local WFO if you get a chance. Talk to Dave Welch in terms of the Lower Mississippi River Forecast Center, who covers the Atchafalaya as much as the Mississippi River plus other water and riverine areas as well. And in terms of that, if you have questions about our surveying, if you have features that you'd like us to chart and update, or if you have imagery that you'd like to make sure you're downloading accurately and you're putting to good use, give us a call as well. Thank you so much, and really, it is a pleasure, it's been an honor, and for Cindy and I, we need a vacation at some point, but thank you.
Tim, I'd like to say just a second. First of all, when you refer to the presentations, Tori will have all those links on our website, hopefully this afternoon. And the other thing is, I want to thank you guys for what you do come in and do after the storms, because we know we don't have enough resources to get the job done, and as soon as the storm's over, we are getting calls from industry, when is the channel going to be open again? It takes a lot of coordination, and we all think we're important and we need to get it done first, but we are all important.
You are, and Absolutely. You're the most important asset out there. And the facility, you, the people, first, second, facility. And making sure that we've got a safe way in and to establish. And we wouldn't be doing the work we have. We've had people camped out here at the Port of Morgan City doing response work. We've had people camped out at the Port of Terrebonne, David Ravelay, doing our work. We spent 2 glorious weeks post-Hurricane Ida sitting at Port Fourchon. And it was Port Fourchon that helped provide water for us. The Corps of Engineers brought fuel for us. And we can't do that job without you in terms of helping us provide those kinds of facilities. And that's so important. And I know it's the same with the weather service as well. Getting those reports, what are the conditions, what are the things they need to start talking about. Again, their forecast and their updates after the storm are as important as anything to know what conditions we're looking at. The storm surge, weather, threats of wind and rain, sea state, marine sea state. It's huge for us in terms of operating safely and really as effectively as we can. Thank you again.
So, thank you, Tim, and I just want you to know, I wrote some notes down, Tim, that I'm going to ask you questions.
Sure.
Right? It's about wrecks and different things that we don't find on the channel, because everybody over here, I'm sure, that goes out on the water, they want to know all the important things of where to find some reefs to fish, and where to find some underwater debris, stuff like that, right after the hurricane. So, thank y'all. So, I want to thank Jimmy for his, I guess, inflated, interview with me, or so my name's Ross Meir. For those of y'all who don't know, I know most everybody in St. Mary works in the emergency response field. So I started with wildlife fisheries. Just wanted to be real quick. Started with wildlife fisheries. I worked with Les Ruff. He was my lieutenant. All right. When I retired, 2013, I went to the sheriff's office. All right. From then until now, and I feel like my whole career has been, although it's a lot of fun and working on the water, my focus has always been out on the water, right? So I've had to respond or work every hurricane since Hurricane Andrew, right? So some of y'all may not have been around, but I've had to work every hurricane since then. And I always took it serious because it was always a lot of damage. It was always something serious after. And then in the room I'm seeing Mr. Duval Arthur and retired Sheriff Naka and Jimmy, and these are the people that I am replacing, that I'm following, right, to do this job. And this is a very important job. The Director of Homeland Security, I can tell you that I've always seen this as something that's extremely important because of the high water. The levee district is going to talk. We are subject to floods from the north and from the south. If we don't get it in the tidal surge, we're going to get it from the river, right? And so I think it's very, very important. And the fact that we're also very low. I'm not going to say everybody's below sea level, but we're not very high, all right? So just want you to know that's why I take this job very serious at this point. So we have a plan in St. Mary for responding to any type of natural disaster. Hurricane, one of our biggest threats, right? That's what we're here to talk about. And so the plan, we're going to have all the way from the parish president, the mayor, all of these people, which is, I'm really glad that most everybody that are in these positions, you've all been doing this for a while. I know, although JD is just, hasn't been a chief long, he's been in this game for a long time, like the sheriff, like everybody else. So, and then this position, I'm just going to basically work with all of the people in the parish, everybody, the political subdivisions, the levee district, everybody, the police departments, everybody, and be the go-between, be the liaison, be the loud voice to GOSEP, right? So this is when something is declared a national emergency, right? So, anyways, so when our emergency operations center opens, these are different things that we're going to be looking at. Not every disaster is going to be the exact same, but we have to have some type of flow chart, something to use to go by. Some things may get skipped. It may not be as important as the next one. It may not be relevant, right? So we're going to have a meeting. We're going to have a hurricane meeting. We're going to make decisions as to what resources we have. What are we facing? We have the National Weather Service telling us this is what we're coming in. This is what's coming in. And I did want to ask you the Google I don't know, AI system. DeepMind, Google DeepMind. So it should be able to in the future give a more direct, smaller cone of uncertainty, but it's going to also help improve the predictions of flood from tidal surges and everything. So hopefully that'll help, because that's important to us, right?
Yeah, we're actually, just to expound on that, hurricane forecasting is not the only thing that the DeepMind's doing right now. We are now forecasting severe weather. It's providing severe weather outlooks, very similar to what the Storms Prediction Center outlines for us. So it's not just in tropical weather, but it's going to be in all forms of weather.
So that's going to be helpful, when we have representatives from every small district in the parish, or every other person who has vested interest in how their area is going to be affected, how their business, whatever it is, we can use to try to help, I guess, help determine exactly a little closer what the threats going to be, like what level, because we all know we're going to flood at some point, depending on, I get high water in my backyard just from a south wind, okay? So anyway, so we're going to send out information on our media network. We're going to meet with public officials, with schools. Emails will be sent out. Y'all are all going to be notified. The people who are engaged as to what our plans are, what we discussed in the meetings. So those of you who don't already know, we have meetings. We come in and everybody discusses it. The people that are involved, right? We rely on the weather service and pass that information on to them. Pre-storm. So we want everybody to be more resilient, right, to hurricane, any type of threat. That goes to you personally, and then to whatever agency or whatever business, whatever political subdivision that you represent, whether it be the flood district, the levee district, or the drainage district. Drainage district. Right. So anyway, we want you more resilient, both at home and here. So do those things and check your generators. Make sure that the pumps work. Because we have to answer for. Okay, now we have all of this. This is what we're facing. The flood is going to be in this area. The surge is going to be in this area. We want to make sure that when you say, "Hey, we have all of this prepared," that your pumps work, and you want to make sure all of those things are prepared, and you're actually taking some accountability and making sure it's done. Make sure your generators are well maintained and ready to go, because when it comes time for the hurricane, you need to make sure that you're relying on these things. Like I said, there's no stopping in the middle of this. So the importance of making sure that your generators, or if you witness it, okay, I'm sure none of us are going to, in here, maybe they're going to say it, but the carbon monoxide is going to come in from the generator. I witnessed it once at a hurricane response where it just so happened to the flag, and then they had a generator sitting outside on a pile of something. It was all flooded, and the flag was flying this direction, and all of the exhaust fumes were going into the house. So I went in there and knocked on the door. All the doors were open, the windows were open. People were sleeping. I'm like, get up, get up, get up. And then the guy was kind of sleeping. I was like, man, you've been pumping this carbon monoxide from your generator into your house. It's real. Fight for it. Okay. So if you police your yard, police all the things that could fly. Those things are going to become debris. You're going to lose it, and then it's going to become some type of debris that's going to cause damage somewhere else, right? Prepare your staff. Make sure they're ready, their families are ready, because once it's time, at some point you're going to have to. They may leave, or some of you may end up leaving. But once they leave, you want to make sure that they are taken care of. Because what's the most important thing to each and all of us here? Our family, right? That's the most important thing. Okay. I know that we can say, "Oh, well, this job is the most important thing," but realistically, you want to make sure that your family's protected, have them safe, ready to go, have a plan, so that once it's go time, it's easier for you to do your job and concentrate on the things you have to do when you know that the people you love the most are taken care of. Remember, those are the low-lying areas, and there's a lot of low-lying areas where we live, right? I know my house is supposed to be pretty protected, but we don't have a floodgate, right? There's no floodgate protecting me. So remember, when the water starts coming in, you may be cut off, basically. The water comes up from where I live. Before it gets to my house, I am going to be cut off from the exits that I have, right? Think of those things. Think of your community, where you are, because you're responsible to know if those things that somebody else may not know, you can identify. Hopefully from experience, you've seen, how water backs up. But just pay attention to that, and let us know, or let those other people know. So we want you to be accountable for what you have, right? Make sure that if there's a project you're working on, whatever the case is, we have some type of project to mitigate a flood, some damage, whatever it is. We want to make sure that you're taking care of that and you're accountable for it. We also want to make sure that you document those things. Take pictures of it. Make sure that you're documenting what you have, the condition it's in. I think one of y'all talked about it. Anyways, you want to make sure that you're taking pictures of it, what you have, documenting those things, that way when you go back to try to replace them after the storm, right? You're able to say, okay, this is what we have, and we're improving it. And then have them serviceable, have them ready to go. I know that I'm going to tell you, just from my professional experience, I worked for the state and I worked for the sheriff's office. We were always 100% accountable. If you had a piece of equipment, a boat, a truck, a chainsaw, whatever it was, we made sure that it was operational, right? We weren't going to wait around because you were going to be accountable for it. Make sure you portray that type of accountability, that these things are ready to go, right? So the fuel plans, the sheriff's office has a fuel tank, right? We're working on doing that. We have one, we're getting a bigger one. But the fuel, yes, once this storm is passed and we're in recovery, we can get fuel from Department of Agriculture and Forestry. But think of those things ahead of time. One thing is, I always want to make sure that my vehicle is full, right? I don't let it get to empty. Every time I get in the car with my wife, I have to go fill it up. Okay, it's on empty. All right, just one day out of the clear blue, I remember coming to work, and I was managing our fuel cards, and there was no fuel. I don't know if y'all remember, there was no fuel. You couldn't get fuel anywhere. Morgan City, there was no fuel. It was just out of the clear blue. This wasn't even a storm. So make it a regular practice that you fill up, you're ready, and then think about all your contingencies of how much you're going to have, whatever the supplies are that you need, the fuel, the whatever commodities that you need to be prepared for this. So we have a link you can get to get a game plan, but make sure that your medical needs, oxygen, like medicine, like prescriptions. Make sure you have those things. Make sure you have enough of it. Plan for those things. So oxygen bottles, power outage. Make sure you have some type of backup power source, right? Now everybody has cell phones. We're all going around. We're so dependent on it. I know most of you have some type of way to charge it, right? Like a backup system. I have a backup to the backup to the backup, like little batteries that I'm going to recharge my phones with, right? Make sure you have all those things. Make sure that you are capable of keeping your computers, your batteries, your cell phones, all that stuff, so that you are, I'm going to say relevant, you're able to continue to operate and the function that you're here for. So you want to give people your plan. You don't have to tell everybody. I worry about like telling everyone your plan. Tell the people you trust, right? That's an obvious thing. But make sure you tell them. And when there's a storm, when there's some type of event, it could be whatever the case is, and communication. What happens whenever we have some type of storm or some type of big event? Something happened big in the news, it could be. It's not a disaster. But communication, even at certain times of the day, the communication is harder. There's more people calling. So don't, call everybody. So a lot of people may be calling you. Let somebody know who is outside of this area, outside of the affected area. Let them know, and then they can relay the information to the people that maybe in your family or whomever, right? So kind of streamline all the communications in that one area. So we are going to stock. We're going to have food. We're going to have water. We're going to keep water. You know, the parish is going to have all these things, and we're going to start preparing. And likely you all should do the same thing. We're going to start preparing. We're going to have different things that after the event, right, we'll be able to start responding. But make sure that you have what you need in your area that you can withstand that. You go through, you know, pre-planning, have different things, commodities, water, fuel, equipment. The sheriff's office, even they have extra tires that, you know, we'll buy before, because you know after a storm there's going to be, you could have flats, and that's not when you want to be able to, that's not when you want to say, well, I don't have a spare, right? You want to make sure that you have those things ahead of time. What they say is fail to plan is plan and fail. I mean, make sure you have those things when you're ready. So, evacuation routes. I don't know if y'all noticed, but going towards New Iberia, in Patsyville area, so it's down. It's the highway is down to one lane, right? That's gonna bottleneck. That's gonna slow things down, right? And that's where we're gonna start getting traffic backing up on our end. Okay. So know your evacuation route, and I'm just gonna say, for those of you who have to stay, that's one thing, but your family, when they're evacuating, when you're telling people to evacuate, the public, whoever it is you're responding to, have them evacuate, you know, as early as they can. My fear has been that, and this is coming from working, you know, multiple years and years of storms in St. Mary, is, do you all think that if we're told that there's a storm, there's a storm surge or something, right? And it's like Ida was supposed to be, right? Ida was what could have been a really bad storm for us. It was, we lucked out, okay? And if it would have hit just out west, we would have gotten we'd have gotten a really big storm surge, right? That's my fear. So, do you think that the public, the general public, most everybody, you were going to get a lot of participation with people evacuating in St. Mary? I don't know. Anybody? Because it seems like we just don't take it. Either we don't take it that serious, or people just don't evacuate, like in large numbers, like we should have had for Hurricane Katrina. Yes, sir.
I can't answer the question, but I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Considering that we could have a possible evacuation, how much engagement is there with DOTD and the Louisiana State Police in these discussions?
So they are going to sit with DOTD and state police. They're going to assist us when we have an evacuation. We declare, like, and it may not be our evacuation, right? Terrebonne, part of Assumption Parish, they may be evacuating, but we're not in the affected area, right? We're not in the cone, right? But we are in the affected area because that's where they're coming from. DOTD is going to assist with shutting off, like, signage, right? State police is going to assist with maintaining the traffic flow. Right? You all know that it's possible to have contraflow. I don't know the requirements of what they can do, right? But when they're going to declare contraflow. But if you don't already know what contraflow is, that's when state police says, okay, all the lanes are going in one direction, right? Well, that's great. But when you get to Patsyville, there's only one lane going each way. It's just going to be 2 lanes there.
I just want to say, in relation to Patsyville, DOTD always has plans on evacuation routes. If there's any type of construction going on, they shut it down. And they put signage up to assist with as much flow of traffic as they can. We're going to meet tomorrow, meet with New Iberia in their meeting. And we've already been discussing remedies to possibly make an alternate route around that construction site onto a service road. And we're in the works in planning that stuff right now. So we're working with it.
And we have a few slides more about evacuation, but
That are also sort of like the state police, DOTD, and the parishes they have been talking about this for the last 3 years since it started.
You're referring to the work, yeah. So we've been having this type of,
Yeah, Sheriff's Office.
yeah, we've been having this type of like construction. It's not that specific spot where they're building an overpass because of a railroad track that needs to cross the highway. They've gotten to that, but they've been doing work on 90. It's kind of like Houston. I've been to Houston a bunch of times, and every time I go to Houston, there's always some spot that they're working on, right? Well, Highway 90 for a long time is going to be like that. We're going to have some lanes closed, right? And we are also connected with DOTD and state police, whether it be with liaison from them being in a meeting, or we're going to be, through GOSEP, we're going to communicate. So yeah, whatever their plan is, we're going to know, and whatever our concerns are, I'm going to tell them. As a parish councilman, you come to the meetings, we'll present whatever it is to them.
Second question.
Sir?
Do we have a plan for evacuating our elderly and disabled people?
Yeah, and I'm going to be getting to it soon. So the plans individually though. So yes, we have a plan, and that goes from us what our concerns are, and we've had the hazard mitigation meetings, right? We go to GOSEP with it, tell them what our concerns are. We've given them a description of all the different places we have, right, in the parish, whether that be government buildings or also hospitals and elderly and vulnerable populations, right? So we're giving them that information. We're feeding that to them first. We have to do it every 6 years with the hazard mitigation plan, and they're taking that and helping us develop a plan of what we're going to do and where they're going to go. And I don't know if Darren wants to, if there's anything else that I missed on it, as far as
Those plans for evacuation of the people, we really need to get with the LDH and the DOTD, because they'll supply should you need transportation, but that has to be pre-planned, you know? So we'll get you in touch with those guys and see what they can do with that. So it's a lot more detailed than just this.
And I can tell you that your concern is definitely my concern also, because Lieutenant Ruff, or Les Ruffley, he can tell you that we don't want to have to go and get them in boats like we had to in New Orleans. We want them there out. You know, we want them out of there ahead of time.
I personally, that's what we do with people. So I want to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We have an MOU with the Columbia Parish School Board where they're going to supply us with the school buses. And we have 2 pickup points, which he's going to get into more of, at Morgan City Junior High and Franklin High. Whenever there's a mandatory evacuation, all that comes into play.
Good, thank you. That's what I want to hear. Thank you.
So we have a few more slides that's going to address it, but I think we're talking about it now. But anyway, so sheltering plans, nursing home, like you were asking, referring to. So one of the things I didn't know because I wasn't in that position, but the state fire marshal has to inspect those things before their return, right? They have to be inspected to make sure that, and it could be simple, they weren't impacted, right? But these things, these nursing homes and these care centers have to be inspected before people start coming back. We have an MOU, we have an agreement with Rapides Parish. They have a coliseum in Alexandria. That's our shelter, right? That's where we're playing. And if you, that's where we plan to send people when we're evacuating, right? So you can see that's pretty far away. It's going to take some time to get them there. It's going to take some time to get them back. So the sooner they're lined up, the sooner we can get them evacuated from the parish, moving. As soon as they acknowledge or agree, okay, yeah, I need to evacuate. That's the time frame that it may help from you and from others who are in the local area. Like, hey, it's going to take some time to get there. It's not like, you know, going somewhere close. We need to get moving. We need to make sure that we plan for these things. So, and like Jimmy was saying, we're going to use, Janet was saying, school buses, right? We're going to use our local school buses to evacuate them. I'm sure you all saw the pictures of the school buses all sitting there submerged for Hurricane Katrina. That was horrible. That was a sin. We don't want that to happen. So, do we plan to put them all in one spot? Well, that's a question. They may all get flooded or destroyed in one spot. So those are different things that we have to decide, like, okay, how to mitigate the damage to those things as well, right? Hopefully we're using them before to evacuate people and not having to go in and evacuate people who've been flooded, like in Baton Rouge or in 2016 or in Katrina in 2005. We have these parish pickup points and these parish pods that we're going to talk about. These are all things that have been predetermined with GOSEP. We make a plan, like I said, the hazard mitigation plan, and we say, okay, these are the areas that we're going to use, right? It's not something that we can just decide, okay, well, this is a better place. This is closer to, say, a special interest group, right? People who live in a certain area. These plans are predetermined with GOSEP, and we have to have some type of plan, right? We have to have something that says this is where they're coming, right? And GOSEP's going to approve it. And then the National Guard's going to know, and they're coming. Somewhere the National Guard has a plan, and they know, okay, if it's St. Mary Parish, these are the areas we're going to go for the pods, which we'll talk about. And so, oh wait, let me go back. So, on-site registration. When we send, so you see the parish pickup points, Franklin High and Morgan City Junior High, right? This says admin personnel from each city will be needed on site to aid with registration, and fire and PD to assist. So we need to make sure that we have enough resources there, enough people, right, enough assets, so that this thing can flow smoothly. We have parish employees who are going to be there with the computer, with all the information linked. People are evacuating. But we need assistance from you all, from the different, and it could be if it's in Burke, you may end up needing to get, if you're inundated with work, you may have to get somebody else to help. But we're going to need people from those within those areas that assist. Sir.
What about dogs? You're going to have people that pick up points for
animals?
Got the animals?
So different state agencies have different ESF functions for animals, and the parish
Assisting in evacuation.
but the parish, they're not evacuating dogs to a different area. It's going to be, they're going to stay within the parish, right?
Temporary, yeah.
Yes.
It's possible they will leave for the panel going up.
There's the Rapides Parish next door to it. There's a center. That's where our pets will be housed.
And livestock.
And livestock. Pets and livestock.
So there's transportation coordinated to get pets.
Through the animal control, the
So
we're going to get this information out to our constituents so that they know these things.
When the incident happens, it'll be broadcast live in media and everything.
It's going to be through one of those text messages or something.
Right.
now, that doesn't mean that all the animals are going to get on the bus with the people being evacuated, right? I can promise you, nobody wants to be next to my wife's dog, Manda. Okay, he is going to growl and so on. Now, the little one's fine; it's okay. You know, she'll just want to be pet. And then so.
We also work with the Department of Agriculture, where they'll come in and assist us as well to get our animals out. And when we do the evacuation, the registration, each pet owner, the animal will be registered as well. Because we don't lose track of where the animal goes.
Yes, and look, we would hope that our residents who are going to evacuate would also know to take care of that, and because if you work some of these hurricanes afterwards, you know, the dogs that stayed, you know, you round them up, they're all over the place, and you know, you don't want to see that happen. Now, to answer about the livestock, I don't know what the conditions are to determine, okay, we have to evacuate our livestock. I've seen it a few times, but for the most part, they ride it out on a levee. But if anybody else has something to add on that, I would let them know. Okay, so the evacuation pickup points, like we talked about, Franklin High School. These are all the details on it. So we have the Rapides Coliseum, that's in Alexandria. We're going to use our buses, bring them there. We're going to need staffing. We're going to need special staffing from, like I said, from the local areas where Franklin, and we're going to have. So, Ted, Annex spoke about that. We spoke about this one too. That's Moore City Junior High. Where are they going to go? Same place. Rapides Coliseum in Alexandria, right? Some of the concerns with the evacuation, we talked about that ahead of time. The roads are going to be congested. We're going to have problems with the Hobby on Pattyville. I told you my personal concern. I would hope that people aren't waiting too long to evacuate, or we don't have too many people just deciding to ride it out, right? And back here you see the storm can change, the timetable shifts and intensifies, but I don't think it's going to ever shift. We're going to know ahead of time where it's going because the Google DeepMind is going to help us determine that, right? I'm just joking, but hopefully it'll definitely be one of those things. This is what we were talking about, where it's down to one lane. Post-storm, told you earlier, make sure you take pictures ahead of time, so post-storm, you know, like if there's a barge full of rocks at Global Venture, you know that thing's gone, right? So make sure you know what you're looking for, like these things are gone. Take pictures of it. This is what we're looking for, right? So we've given GOSEP a plan with a list of all of our assets, right? The public buildings, right? The parish, be like the schools, the school board, the sheriff's office, the jail, all these different things. We've given them a plan that they know about what we have, right? So they know pretty much everything that we have, right? We know when to bring evacuees home, right? We're going to be told, and it's not like we could say it's this many days. It's going to depend on what post-storm. It's going to depend on the recovery. It's going to depend on the traffic, the highways. GOSEP is going to let us know when we can start bringing people home. Am I correct? No? We will?
Yeah.
So
Our infrastructure capability.
it's going to depend on what we're dealing with, right?
Situations are always different. We can assist in finding what you have available. You gotta have your power before you send people back. You're gonna have your grocery stores. You want people to be able to come back here and live. If you're coming back here and there's nothing, then you have just created another.
We're going to have to make sure that our water source is restored, power is restored before we start letting people come back in. Okay.
Sir, that could be an issue. Because, we've survived without power before, in some instances.
Wait, so correct. Before we start bringing evacuees back in on buses, like, when we start bringing them in.
Okay. Because if people are staying in hotels, they may not be able to afford to stay for an extended
Well, we've
period of
taken
time.
people, just remember, we've taken people to the Rapides Coliseum, right?
Right.
We don't want to start bringing them back until water and power is restored, right? We may not lose water, we may not lose power, whatever the case is, but we can't come back with a whole bunch of buses to the place where we picked them up and say, okay, go, and there's nothing for them. There's no water, there's no electricity.
What I'm suggesting is that the messaging is going to have to be very clear, very concise, because there's been confusion in the past where the word from St. Mary Parish government has been the parish is not open, nobody can come back home, and it was just a blanket ban on people coming home as opposed to just people that were evacuated. And that creates confusion because there are people that have the means to get back home, they want to check their properties, they know the power is out, but they're taking their own risk in coming back to St. Mary Parish. And if the roads are open, we can maneuver freely without imminent danger, then that message is different from okay, people that are in shelters that we're responsible for, that we have to transport back to St. Mary Parish.
So it's going to have to be, it's going to have to be some difference between the people that we bring back who were sheltered, right? And then the people who just show back up a couple days after on their own vehicle. Yeah, they're going to have different messages because and understand, these are going to be different in different areas, right? Like where I live may not have been impacted. The road's clear to come back in. You know, where I live, we may come back in. Or where you live, you may be able to drive back in. But before the school buses start bringing people back from the Rabbit Coliseum, we want to make sure that we have water, we have electricity, that things are stable now.
Correct. And we want people to be evacuated to know that in advance as well.
Yes.
That
Well,
you're not going to get back here right away.
So look, we can't tell them in advance how long it's going to take. We're going to tell them they're going to be at the Coliseum, they're going to be getting information. Wherever they're going to be, if we send them somewhere and then they're evacuated, there's going to be information for them there, right? So, anyway, so I think we covered a lot of this, right? We want to make sure that we have all this back up. Understand gas stations aren't going to be operating like you're saying. We're not going to have water. The stores aren't going to be. We want to make sure before we start opening things up, say, all right, come on, y'all come on back. Everything's fine with that. We have some of this stuff restored, okay? And yes, we have had a hurricane where, for Hurricane Andrew, I had no power for a month, but we were still open in general, all right? Before we start bringing people back to nursing homes, we want to make sure that this stuff is back operating. All right.
You know, we're talking about bringing people back from your shelters to here. Share an example in Lake Charles, when they had, I think it was Hurricane Laura. Well, they had Hurricane Laura, they had some people leave. Hurricane Laura, they had a lot of people stay. Their biggest problem was after the hurricane passed, there was absolutely almost no infrastructure, and then everybody wanted to leave. You know, so that's a disaster after a disaster is finding a place to get those people. And the state did go and help them. You know, it was ECFS back then, but LDH, they will be here to help. That's post-storm, you know, should you need. So always remember, the disaster for you could always be after the storm with the people. Because after you don't have electricity for 5, 6, 7 days, after there's no sewage for 5, 6, 7 days, it all starts becoming a hazard, and people get tired, they get hot, they get frustrated, and some people need help to get out. So
yeah,
it's always.
So we want to make sure people don't think that just because I didn't get swept away by the tidal surge and die from this, it means it was okay for me to stay. After the storm, there's going to be a lot of issues that we're going to have to continue to deal with. We're going to have to get things back operational. The roads may be, I'm talking about washed out, not we shut it down. It's not accessible. All right, keep going. All right. Sir.
I did want to mention this to Jimmy before the meeting. Just this weekend, of course, I-49 around Karen Crow is now under construction, and they had to close part of I-49 in that area because the road conditions had deteriorated due to the construction. So that's going to be another problem area.
Yeah, and if you've seen any place on the south end of our parish, the roads, DOT has to come back in and affect them because we have a lot of tidal surges that will wash out the road bed, right? Not just the road, everything.
Ross.
Sir.
Now, here's the thing, and understanding all what I'm saying, but sometimes you bring them back too soon, you delay the process.
Sir?
You delay the whole cleanup process.
Yes, that's why.
Emergency personnel, because there are people who want to get back to check their property, and in public works, they come and get in your way.
Yeah.
Everybody trying to make it, and then you trying to open up roadways, so now you got just everything, so if they would give you an extra day or two, just to make sure all the roadways open up for emergency personnel and stuff like that, because that's the main thing. The recovery process is one of your worst things, not the evacuation, because everybody want to rush back, and when you want to rush back, you got down power lines, you got down trees, And we fight that every storm.
And that-
Everybody wants to see their property when they back.
Yeah, and that's what we,
Wow, just give us some time and don't rush us where we can send crews in to open up those roadways without you rushing on them, delaying the process, and then they get frustrated because it's taking twice as long because you have came and got in the way. And that's what people don't understand. So sometimes it's better to tell them just stay away until you can get things clear.
that's exactly right. And that's what we need to do better with, is explain it to the public when they want to come back. And that's what I was referring to with your question, is that they want to come back. It's expensive to stay. They're not staying at the fancy hotel. I mean, you know, it's going to cost them money to stay somewhere. But we need to make sure that before they come back, we have this all open. Power, utilities, the road is clear. You know, we have a way to protect people and to respond, right?
Not just want to input that, not to delay things, but that we do hazard mitigation, we always do preparation. But my part of it is to work on it and have to open up these areas and get these things done so people can come back to their normal lifestyle. It's people coming in and they delaying the whole process because everybody come in like red ants and you can't do what needs to be done.
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
I mean, and then people begin to complain, but if you just give us the time, stay where you at until we get the road open. Don't come rushing, we can't open the road for 9 minutes a week.
And I appreciate that, and I agree. And you're going to be in the call center talking to some of these people too, and helping them explain that, because I agree with you. And that is one of the biggest problems post-storm, is that we're trying to recover, we're trying to take care of everything, but then we have a bunch of people coming in, and we have to get the balance right. So the pods, points of distribution.
Would you mind sticking around a little bit after, because we have a couple more presentations to get to?
Yes, ma'am.
And because it sounds like you've got a big audience that wants to talk with you.
Yeah, so I'm being told to speed it up, and I think that would be probably better if we could I can pause, and then Mike Ricotta can talk to us about the levee and how protected we are. How you going to build a rock jetty for me.
Thank you.
I'm going to speed through as quickly as possible because I know some of us have other meetings to get to, and we have Coast Guard still to go. First,
Who moaned at that? There's a moan up here.
can you find it? That's even better. First, I do want to introduce a new member of our staff. Tucker Manuel back there is our O&M technician. He's our field guy that came on to the levee district in September. So see his face. You'll see him around, especially during hurricanes and things like that. I got it in my pocket if you want it. You said you did it.
Oh my God. Your device ran into the wrong button.
Okay.
Just start talking and it's okay. Start talking, it'll come up when
I don't remember what was on the slides. The front end of the slides was mostly our projects. Not much of that has changed. Of course, we have on the far west end, we got the Bayou Teche project. We have the barge gate. We have the Yoakley extension, which pretty much closed the loop from Sherrington Canal. You don't have any maps right here. From Sherrington Canal to the Wax Lake outlets. So that area on the south side is protected to some elevation. And then you got the Wax Lake East area, which is the Berwick-Patterson. Again, that's a ring levee contained. We have protection to a certain elevation. And then Morgan City, you have, of course, you have the federal system on the south side, and then you have the backwater levees on the back. Of course, there is a gap at the lakefront. We're currently working on a project to close that gap. And then we have Bayou Chene, the Bayou Chene structure, which is not, you want me to go from here?
I'm not going to be able to.
Oh, you jumped, okay, you can go to the next one, just to kind of show the district map. Where's that good one? Okay, so I was pointing out, we are now protected to some elevation from Sherrington Canal to the Wax Lake outlet. So this entire area is protected, again, to an elevation. And then you have the Wax Lake East area, that again, another loop. It's protected to an elevation. And then Morgan City, the only gap is right there at the lakefront. We did experience in Hurricane Francine, thank you, some overtopping of that area. That is an area that we could flood fight at some point if we see the need for it. Go ahead to the next one. And I'll just kind of, that one's going to break too. Sorry. Yep, go to the next one. This is our Bayou Teche structure, which closes up from Sherrington Canal going west on the Bayou Teche. So you can click through. Yoakley Extension, which protects the Metal Shark property as well as the Saronic property now. Go ahead. I think that was Hurricane Barry. This is a removable flood wall at those two locations. We have a contractor that goes in pre-storm whenever we call them and ask them, hey, go deploy the flood wall. Within probably 12 hours, they can have all the 900 feet of flood wall installed and protects those two, not just those two businesses, that's the city of Franklin and all the outlying areas there. Again, it closes that loop. You can click through. Of course, Franklin Canal barge and pump station protects the south end of Franklin. Go ahead. Again, Hanson Canal. Go ahead. Next one. Yellow Bayou pump station. And I believe Hurricane Isaac, the Hanson Canal and the Yellow Bayou flooded Highway 90. So now those areas are protected. We don't have to worry about it to an elevation. Go ahead, click through. And of course, Morgan City, you can hold it right here for a second. The lakefront here, and then this yellow area here are the only closures that need to be done. Historically speaking, this has never been an issue for backwater flooding. And with the right storm, the Bayou Chene structure will be closed. In Hurricane Francine, we closed Bayou Chene. The storm, instead of going in at Highway 317, decided to make that last minute jog and went basically south of St. Mary Parish. Worst case scenario for that structure because you get a reverse head. No damage was done. We figured out ways to alleviate the water that was somewhat trapped in the system, and we've actually done a bunch of storm modeling to make sure that we make the right decisions whenever it comes to that. This area is kind of just that. It's good, it's bad, but you've got to do a deal. So we know the risks behind it, and we found ways to alleviate those. You can go ahead and click through. Of course, this is the Bayou Chene, and I like showing this picture. This is from the riverine flood of last year. Last year's spring flood. Can you tell which water is from the river? Yeah, it's very obvious. So you can see that the project does work. You can go ahead and click to the next one. The biggest rule we follow, back up one, Murphy's Law. If it can go wrong, it's going to go wrong, and that's the way we prepare for hurricane season. We look at every structure, every levee, every area with pump stations, and we figure out what is the worst case scenario and how do we respond to that. And we try to have a plan in place before it happens because you know it's gonna. Bayou Chene, again, worst case scenario for a hurricane was Francine. That was the first time we ever used it for that structure for a hurricane. We had worst case scenario. Worst case scenario for Bayou Teche structure, Francine, 10 inches of rain behind the structure. We're working on a process to fix that problem as well. I feel like every time we build a new project, we test the worst case scenario from Jump Street. So Murphy's Law, be prepared. Next slide. We do use the Coastal Emergency Risk Assessment. It's a storm surge model that we've been using I would have to guess for about 10 or 12 years. You can see we did work with LSU. They get our new levee surveys every time we build a new project, every time we resurvey. Our levee system is in it. This is Hurricane Barry, which at the time we did not have that Yoakley extension and the Bayou Teche project. So you can see right here, it allows us to get tight and see where we're going to have infiltrations of stormwater from the outside. We can respond to that by flood fighting, building temporary levees, whatever it takes. Or it may be just a matter of letting the parish know, hey, we're going to get water in these areas, we need to get the people out of there. Go ahead to the next one. That's the Bayou Sally area. We know the low spots here, they're at the east-west tie-in as well as the south end of it. Next one. Again, over by Meadow Shark, we saw that water was coming in. We knew, and I'm going to show you the next slide, we knew early on, this is what's going to happen. This is what we're anticipating. We can do X, Y, or Z to solve it, or we can just deal with it as it comes. Go ahead to the next one. I think is the next one. Yes, this is perfect. This was Hurricane Laura. The thing about the SIRA model is they're going to run the storm model, which is kind of the center of the cone, and then they can give us veer right 50%, veer right 100%. It gives us a bunch of different options. What we basically do is pick the worst case scenario, and we take that, and when it comes to closing gates in Morgan City and Berwick, we take that, we add 2 feet to it. If they say we're going to get a 6-foot storm surge, everything 8 feet and below needs to be closed. If you look, that's the actual gauge elevations from Hurricane Laura. This was run 28, which is again down the center of that cone. This was run 28, which was a veer right. You can see the numbers fell. We're talking about within inches of those two models. We have a lot of confidence in this, and we really stick to it. One thing I want to say, can you go to the next one? I don't remember what the next one is. This is our floodgates. That's Berwick. And then the next one is Morgan City. And then the next one. Yes. Gauges. This is a great site. We have compiled this over the past few years. If you want to know the water elevations, for any of these sites, we pick pretty much anything that goes on in St. Mary, as well as some of the riverine stuff that we look at during riverine flooding. It's here. Again, St. Mary Levee District, we have a weather and gauges site. You click to the next one. We currently have, I'm going to tell you, we have on those gauges, Bayou Teche has a rain and wind gauge, Bayou Chene has rain and wind, and then here at the EOC, we have a tempest weather station that's on the back of the building that gives us all the information, in Port of West St. Mary as well. Installed one, so you see the tab up there. So you have all of that at your fingertips real quick. I know on my cell phone, it's one button, I push it, I have all of that right there in front of me. One of the biggest things that we need to do better in St. Mary is get data, okay? We've had storms and everybody's like, how much did it rain? It rained this much over here, it rained this. None of it meshes together. So we've kind of pushed over the past couple of years. These are Mr. Bill's favorite, the Tempest weather stations. They're affordable. You hook them up to your Wi-Fi, in your offices, in your town hall, whatever it is. And then I can actually, if you send me the links, I can add them to this page. But we need to gather data. We need to gather data on the rain events, water levels, all of those things. And we've made a push to get more data gathering equipment out there. Go to the next one. Again, going back to the information collection, pre-event data, post-event data. I know I have used NOAA's satellite imagery post-storm to find out if we can access levees, things like that. No problem areas after the storm, post-event meetings with stakeholders. We have this meeting here, and then we have a storm, and people learn all kinds of lessons. Remember, you're never going to know it all. You're going to learn. Every storm's going to be different. Every storm's going to teach us something. We should have post-event meetings. 2 months after the storm. We should bring these groups together and talk about what happened. We got to remember that. Ross, where you at? Ross, you got to ramrod that. So I'm putting that on you. Again, lessons learned. Every year we learn something new. And then the weather stations, Tempest is the brand. I want to caveat something. So as a levee district, we build projects to the elevation, sometimes the elevation that they need to be for storms. Okay? What FEMA's telling us, hey, you need to have these levees to a 10.5, whatever it happens to be. There are storms out there, whether it's levees, pump stations, whatever it is, that we cannot protect to. So we need to be aware of that. And one of the ways we look at it is, okay, if I can keep 6 feet of storm surge out of your house, but you get rain flood, what do you want? Do you want this much water in your house? Do you want this much water in your house? So there's a give and to take. We have to understand that there is going to be something that we cannot protect to, and be prepared for that. So I'm done, unless you got questions.
Other stations have courthouse chat. Is that getting data?
I don't know how to access that. The weather station is at the courthouse.
There isn't a giant.
Oh, there's not. I think he's talking about probably the dome, the radar dome, maybe.
No, the radar dome is not public.
They got an app on that, WAFB on top of the courthouse.
WAFB has access to that.
Yeah. They have an app and you can get the data from it anytime.
Well, a lot of times, some of the big things are pinpointing rain, pinpointing wind, things like that. They can't give us that. But if we have those Tempest stations kind of spread out around the parish, and look, the big thing that it helps with, again, is post-storm. Because whenever we run storm models, our modelers can plug those numbers in to truth those models. So if we have people, and look, we've run Francine through by Shane modeling, and Francine through Bayou Teche modeling. If we have those specific numbers, it helps to make that modeling information more accurate. Les, did you have a question?
Yeah, I agree with you. Those meetings, 2 months before and then 2 months after.
Yes.
Where we can learn our screw-ups.
Yes.
Afterwards, to where the next one, like you say, all storms are different. They're all not the same. But at least we learn from mistakes from the last time.
And I know as a district, we're working with Senator Robert Outland to get a better continuity throughout the parish of how we operate our pump systems, how we operate our levee systems, because just about all the municipalities have pumps. Of course, we have the drainage districts and then the levee district. So we're trying to come together a little bit more so that you can go from district to district and see the same material. It's got different answers to that material, but it's laid out the same. So we're working to do that as well. I appreciate y'all's continued cooperation in that. Any other questions?
Next, we're going to have the Coast Guard Commander Josh Weidman.
Just real quick. So Joshua Weidman, I've been here for a year. This is my second time in Morgan City. I was here back in 2008, carrying a bag and busting on the inside of barges. Excited to be here. I want to say that this is the best and worst right now because I'm the last presenter before the end of this meeting, but I'm also probably the most protected presentation I've ever been with all the guns that are sitting in the hands. So, I'm the last guy, but I'm also the best protected right now for my presentation. But just excited. I know that's kind of a bad word to say for hurricane season, but we have a lot of good port partners working with the port and seeing everybody fill up this room is great. Being the first time in this leadership role here at Morgan City. As everybody can kind of figure out, we deal with the vessels and the waterfront facilities, and so our timeline is just a little bit different with what we expect of those facilities and those shipbuilding locations. And so Chief Harden is just going to quickly go through how we address the approaching storms.
Hey, good morning. MSCC Lisa Harden. I've been here for 3 years. I'm on my way out this summer. I won't say, we got Francine a couple of years ago, whatever, and I was in Mobile 6 years before that, and we had a real light hurricane there, well, on our side, not saying Florida's side. I won't say I'm good luck, but anyway. So we're going to go through some reminders. I know this is nobody's first rodeo, if you don't mind hitting that first slide, about vessel and barge mooring requirements. So please don't secure them to trees or other vegetation. We want something, to be secured and solid. So, high water, wind. We don't want barges being bogging down the rivers and waterways and making more of an impact than necessary. There's going to be other things doing that as well. We're not going to allow the barges to be moored with frayed lines or defective moorings. So double check your lines, double check your moorings, make sure they're really secured. And again, please don't moor them side to side or end to end unless they're, secured together. So that way they're as a group, they're not just individual barges breaking loose. You might hit the next slide. So again, with them being moored up together, secure them as close as possible with using wire rope, natural synthetic fiber, or fixed rigging, all of which I believe have a 7th to 8th diameter, and some of them are allowed to have some wear and tear, but the fiber needs at least 75% of that tensile strength. Again, because we don't want the breaking loose. These photos are actually taken by our drone. I think last time we had high water season, so last year or so, just because we went out with Shane with the port, who was awesome. They took us out on their new boat, and we did double check the line, so we will look, but we were able to snap these photos with our new drone that we got. So anyway, next slide. This is a quick review of port conditions. As CO said, they have a different timeline, and as the storm approaches, the conditions get a little more strict, and it is difficult with some of these storms increasing in speed fast to meet some of these conditions, but we're going to roll with it and we'll do our best because we can't, always hit everything as quickly as these storms develop sometimes. But we'll break each one down a little more individually. So next slide. So we start off with whiskey, 72 hours out. So kind of, the port will be open. So this is kind of like our preparation phase. Like, hey guys, there's a storm coming. We'll contact. I work downstairs in the Waterways Management Division. So again, waterways, facilities, vessels. We'll contact you all and say, hey, there's a storm coming. Just to do our due diligence. The BTS today has some requirements regarding 500 gross ton vessels. You should see some checklists from them that you'll need to submit back to them, especially those who are wanting to remain in port. That needs permission, and those will have some specific instructions that need to be followed. My guys will be boots on the ground, so they'll be doing harbor patrols, they'll be stopping off at facilities, they'll be looking at barge fleets, they'll be looking at places where vessels moor up, just to double check and make sure everything looks good, kind of see, you can put a visual on it, and so that way afterwards we can compare the visuals and make sure that, anything that pops up gets addressed. And then we'll let you guys know time-wise, floodgate closures and bridge closures and things like that once we get back from the requisite agencies. X-rays next, that's 48 hours. Again, the port's still open to all commercial traffic. And again, we're just going to keep comms with our facilities and our vessels to make sure, everybody's aware that the storm is coming, everything has been picked up around these facilities, nothing can get, thrown around or anything like that. Vessels aren't breaking loose, barges aren't breaking loose, things like that. With vessels who want to stay in port, that's individually assessed based on, different criteria of why you need to remain in port, why you can't leave, and then we'll issue captain of the port orders with more specifics regarding those intentions. Deep draft vessels, again, determine their intentions. We don't get too many up this way, but, out towards the sea buoy. And then, again, waterway facilities, and talking with them and making sure they're ready. So a lot more just prep work. Yankees 24 hours out. This is where the vessel control measures start taking effect. So this is where you'll start seeing closures. And it's all storm dependent as everything is. So, we may close portions of the port depending on what's going on where. And then these vessel control movements will be drafted to people who can't get things done in a certain way. So if you can't, complete a cargo op in less than 12 hours, you're probably not going to be able to transfer that cargo. Or red flag barges, you can't moor, in these mile markers on the ICW unless, identified by the captain of the port. So we'll have specific instructions. All of these port conditions are issued out in MSIPs. And I'll have the NAFTA website at the end that you can click on that link. You can see them all. I know we also typically push out MSIBs to GEICA and MAC over at the port. We try to get, for wider dissemination. But again, anyone who's not complying with instructions in these MSIDs or your captain of the port orders because you desire to stay in port, there will be, there will be repercussions to that. So you'll get a captain of the port order where you'll ask to leave, things like that. So, next one. So Zulu's 12 hours out. Again, the vessel control measures are in effect. And they're going to increase. So usually Zulu is like total port closure, but the captain of the port may deviate and allow some areas to be open. It's just all dependent on the storm, where it hit, how quickly it hits, who's all in, around, and things like that. So again, it would be in that MSIB that those specific openings and closures are addressed. And then commercial transits within the port will be closed, except unless we allow you to, really. So transits will be allowed as voyages to be made safely. If you have an identified space to go to, if you can reach safe water before the storm hits, but really you have to pass that information to the captain of the port. You need permission to do that, so we know where these boats are when this storm is approaching, and we don't need to rescue you. And again, with cargo operations, so bulk liquidators, cargoes, bunkering, lightering, none of that's going to happen unless, it's specifically approved. And then cargo's a particular hazard and certain dangerous cargoes, all of that's suspended. So that being said, all of our documentation, I know Homeport's gone, we're putting it up on NAFSEN's website. You can click it. They have a really neat map on NAFSEN. I don't know if anybody's clicked around on it, but it'll pop up and show where all the MSIBs are, and you can click it and see, and they'll put it where the waterway is affected on that map. But you can click that link and you can see these MSIBs. We issue those, the broadcast notice to mariners. Statuses can be found on that page as well. And then up here are our phone numbers. As you know, military we trade out pretty regularly, but the phone numbers stay the same. So keep these phone numbers, take a picture. I think they're releasing the slides so you'll have them. But should you have a question, should you need something specific, please reach out to these numbers, and hopefully we can get you the answer that you need, or the specific situation that you need, or what have you. So that's all I have, short and sweet. I know we've been here for a minute, but does anybody have any questions for myself or Commander White?
I have one thing that I know reconstitution we talked about on the land side, right? This is all kind of preps up to the storm. Reconstitution after also takes some work. So we have teams that go out, they're going to assess the facility, assess the roads, assess the waterways. I do not have direct control over our aunt Morgan City and the ACTS, which does our navigation outside of storm situations. There is the opportunity where if we need to reconstitute, I can have the operational control during that time frame. But on the day-to-day, I am not in control of those assets. That actually comes from Sector NOAA. But the reconstitution is just similar to the land side. On the water side, though, checking our facilities, checking for leaks, checking our vessels, and of course, checking for the depth of our water, post-storm surveys to see if we can get product moving through the port and reconstitute it. So, Mac looks like he wants to say something.
Appreciate y'all being here. Thank you for your service.
One quick note that I forgot. If we set up an INT, so if we have a coop situation or we're staying here or we coop somewhere else, that Morgan City OOD number is the phone number that you want. That will get you to the INT that is set up. That's the one we use.
Will you turn on EA's, electronic aid navigation, as a backup during a storm event?
So that is something that I can request, or we can request it, but I don't have direct access to all of that come from us. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, that's going to wrap up this portion of our guest speakers. Do we have anybody from the Corps of Engineers who wants to say anything, make a remark?
Tim Cadell, Corps of Engineers. Just like in all previous seasons, we'll be monitoring everything. We follow the Coast Guard's lead. Our locks remain open until the port is closed. And, conditions will do, and so hopefully we don't have to do any of that this year, but we'll be here and do what we normally do.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sheriff, do you want to make any comments?
I get that sense that I could have 30 minutes, so. I know most of y'all are hungry and ready to get out of here, so I'll be brief. I'll just say, be prepared, heed the warnings, be ready for everything. I know for all law enforcement, medical, fire departments will be out and there's these storms and it's happening until it gets unsafe. As soon as it gets safe enough for us to hit the streets again, we're back out there working with the parish and the different people trying to open up the roads. We'll be out there with chainsaws or whatever it takes. We do ask people to stay inside at that point because they have so many dangers out there still. So we would actually cooperate and everything else. And if there's anything that any of us can do before, during, or after the storm, please don't hesitate to call us. Thank you.
Any city officials want to make any remarks? Mayor?
I like Mike's idea of after-action review. We've never done that before, and I think it would be an important thing to help us look at what we've done, what worked, what didn't, and that's a good idea.
Right. Okay. I'm sure Ross will take care of getting that done. But we all know after the hurricane passes, we're all very, very busy and everything else. And that's why we got to give it some time and then hold that meeting. Anyone else? Hey, Ross, did you want to go through further with the rest of your presentation?
We have a hard line for lunch.
Give those.
So
if anybody else needs to leave.
Before y'all leave, we do have some handouts, right? So the code red, you can register for that. That's so you can get these alerts.
All this is on our website.
Yeah, everything's on the website, but we have handouts. Make sure you take them.